Week 28 was a week of travel, but it started out by watching some drum corps on FloMarching at home. Stopping in at work today to grab some things for the trip, I decided to actually dig through my trash can and see when the last time it was emptied was, and it looks like we're looking at March 5th. So one aspect that I'm kind of looking forward to about going on vacation is that I don't have to sit and watch the growth on my plants. I can just come back a week later and see how they've progressed, and hopefully they'll be a lot better than they are right now. So that's kind of where everything's at. And with my little tree, I can't quite tell if it's growing yet, but it's been 2 weeks and it's still green, so that's giving me a lot of hope. But even if it doesn't take root, I've got a lot of great branches that are blooming that I can take another step. But overall, my tree isn't doing all that great. On Tuesday, our flight out of Denver was bright and early in the morning. Then we had a brief layover in St. Louis. The flight from St. Louis to LaGuardia, we ended up in an exit row seat, which doesn't give a whole lot more room on Southwest. But we did get some room to the side, which was nice. Our stay was at the Sonesta 50, which overall was a really nice room. Being on the second floor did mean that we got to hear New York traffic all day and all night. At least the honking and sirens generally subsided at night. I did think that the do not disturb signs that we had on the rooms were cute. We walked around a little that first night and got oriented as to where we were. We did spot the Chrysler Building and the East River on our short trek. With no mountains to the west, these Colorado kids did get turned around more than once. And we caught a quick dinner at a not the best New York City food establishment that was near the hotel. The primary purpose of the trip is that I was taking an international baccalaureate training in computer science. There's not a lot of footage that I can show from a teacher training that would be all that interesting, so I guess I'm going to do a talking head in post-production. We had a group of 13 teachers who were probably ranging from Oregon to Austria, and we were all there to figure out how to teach computer science in the IB curriculum better. The conference was hosted by the United Nations International School, which is actually right off the East River. I caught a clip of the recess area that was up on the roof of a 4-story building, and it was just kind of fascinating to me that that's how you'd build a school. I also did catch a couple of meal clips because, well, they did feed us really well. Oh, and I caught this clip from the first day. I was not enjoying the overall heat and humidity of New York, so the first day of the conference I sat in front of the air conditioning unit to help myself acclimate. All in all, the conference was great, and I learned a lot, and I think I'm going to be able to teach better. But let's get back to traveling. On Wednesday, while I was at my training, Melissa's first stop was the New York Public Library. Turns out that the big famous one is the research library, while the checkout library is across the street. Then, to end the day on the first day of my session, because the school hosting us was the UN International School, we were invited to tour the UN headquarters. Melissa was able to join the tour and actually arrived a little early to coordinate the passes and such. Before the tour, we were allowed to explore the gift shop downstairs. One interesting aspect of the UN is that you can buy UN postcards and UN stamps and have them canceled with the specific UN postmark. so we sent postcards to our parents and kids. During the actual tour, we weren't allowed to film video or take audio, but we did get to see the General Assembly Chamber and the Security Council Chamber, and of course I was fascinated by the live translation headset configuration at every seat. After the UN, we were close enough to our hotel, so we decided to walk and take in a little more of the town. We stopped off and got some official New York-style pizza, and then we went out for ice cream. I was successful in fulfilling my sister Renee's goal of finding grass in New York that wasn't in a park or artificial. But the night ended with Melissa taking a bit of a spill, which cut our night a little short. I guess she really wanted to be a part of it. Thursday morning, while I was in my session, Melissa stopped off at a little alcove and had some tea and a yogurt parfait, and then headed off to Central Park. Thursday afternoon, she went on a tour of the Rockefeller Center. After my session ended, I went to meet her there. There was a private party down in the skating rink, so we weren't able to go down there and explore it all. Well, in preparation of visiting New York, we watched a lot of videos from the Here Be Bar YouTube channel. So many that we got the halal carts mixed up. I'll link to John's halal video in the card. This cart was really good, but when we saw the Adele's cart, it had the line we were told that we should be looking for. The Halal Guys was great, so I'd hate to know what we missed out on. While we waited for our reservation time to ascend to the top of the rock, we walked around the area a little. While we waited, we stopped at a cart called Glace, which served frozen hot chocolate. The tan ring at the top of the cup is a marshmallow that's been lightly charred. It was really good. So then our reservation time finally came up and we were headed to the 70th floor. On my third and final day of the conference, we needed to switch hotels, so Melissa headed to Queens fairly early in the morning to drop off the bags at the hotel. Not a lot of touristy things to do in Queens, so instead she headed to Roosevelt Island. It's a pleasant little island in the middle of the East River, again recommended by John Barr, and while spending some time on the island, she also checked out the Roosevelt Island tram. After the conference, I found that she'd made her way all the way to Herald Square, so I met up with her there. We officially got checked into the hotel, and then it was off to Broadway for a show. We found a nearby 50s diner that seemed appropriate for Back to the Future, so we headed there. There was a bit of a line, and there weren't many other options that seemed much better. They came down the line looking to see if there was a party of 6. We only had 2, but the group of 4 in front of us jokingly asked if we wanted to join their group to make it a 6. Looking at the line, it didn't seem like that bad of an idea, so in we went with our new friends from Michigan. The diner itself was great and quite the pre-show. Live entertainment from a bunch of Broadway hopefuls. But eventually we needed to bid our new friends adieu and head over to the Winter Garden Theater to see Back to the Future. It was a really fun show and the cast was really good, even though from the program it kind of looked like we landed on an understudy night. It was still a great play and in a beautiful old theater. After the show, we realized that we were about 2 blocks from Times Square, so we made the obligatory stop. Saturday morning, we hopped on the subway and headed to the south end of Manhattan. Not our first subway, but the first time I had my camera out. Our day started at the 9/11 reflecting pools. Unfortunately, the North Tower pool was closed for maintenance, but we soon found a sign leading us to the South Tower pool. We hit Bill's Bar and Burger for a quick lunch. The burgers were good and the cheese fries were okay. I'd probably add some chili or some gravy for their disco fries. It was a little too early to try their shakes. Then we headed to Battery Park to catch the ferry to Liberty Island. Now Melissa struggles with most forms of transportation, but I think the ferry is the worst for her. Overall, I think she did really well on this ferry. I don't know that I have much of a through story for our trip to Liberty Island, but I'll describe to you what you're looking for in some of the various shots. It's interesting that the placement of the statue is so that she can be seen from the harbor, of course, but from the island you can get better views of Manhattan than you really can at the statue. There's actually a pretty narrow section of land in front of the statue where you can actually get a good shot. This bridge actually spans from Long Island on the left to Staten Island on the right. It's the lower New York Bay beyond. Then we actually paid to go up onto the pedestal. Again, it's not such a view of the statue as it is a view of the bay and Manhattan from here. This is the view from the top of the pedestal down to Fort Hood. The view of Ellis Island, this is what I call the Peter Venkman view of the statue. Here's a clip from Ghostbusters 2.
Kinda makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Wonder what?
Whether she's naked under that toga.
Sorry, Peter, it's all steel. And these are the bolts that actually hold the statue to the top of the pedestal. And the cornerstone at the bottom of the pedestal. Never realized that the statue posed with her right toe down. The museum actually still has the original torch. It was interesting for me to learn that Bartoli didn't consider the weight of his artwork and needed the help of Gustav Eiffel of Eiffel Tower fame to build supports for the structure. I also expected that the famous inscription was viewable from the outside of the statue. We actually saw the inscription in the museum in the pedestal, but I assumed that it was only a replica, so I didn't get a shot. This was a replica that was inside the public museum outside the statue. And then the ferry headed back to Manhattan actually stopped at Ellis Island. We didn't get off the ferry, but we at least got to see the island. On the way back to the hotel, we took another John Bar recommendation and hit up Bleecker Street Pizza. Melissa did get the Nonna Maria, and it does live up to its expectation. One of the top restaurants of the week for sure. And then the subway had us transferring at Times Square again, so we decided to walk the couple of blocks and at least see the iconic Birdland. Our goal on Sunday morning was to walk the Brooklyn Bridge. So on the way down, we stopped for brunch at a little restaurant called The Hole in the Wall. If Bleecker Street was our best restaurant of the week, this was a very close second. While we were in Brooklyn, we stopped by to see our friend Cirilla and her sweet little 9-month-old boy. We hadn't seen her in about 6 years, so it was a welcome end to our trip. It's nice that not all the subways are fully submerged. The Brooklyn train starts above the ground and then dives under the East River and stays there. One last touristy stop, and one last meal stop. And then Monday morning it's back to the airport for a long flight home. All in all, it was a really great trip. I got a lot out of the training, and we had a lot of fun and have some great memories. Thanks for watching, and I guess we'll see you next week.